Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers reporting from Lagos. We're again in East Africa, where emergency workers have confirmed the bodies of a Kenyan couple have been pulled out from the rubble of their home, which was destroyed when a neighboring six-story building under construction collapsed onto it at dawn. The bodies have been taken to a local mortuary. According to St. John Ambulance, Kenya, the building came down in the Ruaka area of Kiambu County, which neighbors the capital, Nairobi. It adds that the family was sleeping in their house when the neighboring building came down. The incident comes 2 days after another multi-story building under construction collapsed in Kasarani, less than 15 kilometers away, killing at least 3 people. Let's bring in Kenyan journalist Brian Wenda for more. Hello, Brian.
Hello, this is Brian Wenda reporting live from Nairobi, Kenya.
Right, so give us an update. Another building collapsed in the early hours of today, just about 2 days after the one that collapsed, 2 days ago. What more can you tell us about this incident?
Well, the incident did happen at around 5 a.m., that is Kenyan time. We'll approximate that to something around 3 a.m. Nigerian time, when a building that was under construction, it was a 5-story building under construction that was actually adjacent to one of an iron sheet also building where a couple was asleep, and unfortunately uh, the building did go down on them, and unfortunately also during the rescue mission they were found not to to be lucky enough to be alive after the incidents. However, 2 is the number of people who have lost their lives. 3 is the number of people who have been injured and hospitalized. And the rescue mission did start something around 6 a.m. and came to a close about 4 hours ago. Right now it is 6 p.m. Kenyan time, so something around 2 p.m. Kenyan time. Yeah.
So we do know that, from what you said, emergency responders have pulled out the bodies of the couple that was trapped under the six-story building under construction. They fell on their home. Is there any more information of, other possible casualties or even, those lucky to be alive?
So basically, the total number of people affected in the incident that did happen at that time comes to something around 5 people. So 2 are the ones who are confirmed to be dead. 3 were the ones who are injured and hospitalized at a nearby hospital. But then beyond that, the rescue mission that did happen for about, let me say, 6 hours came to a close. And according to St. John Ambulance Kenya, they did close the rescue mission at something around 2 p.m. Kenyan time, and right now it's a complete mission.
Right. So
Yeah,
it's strange, that a supposedly rare occurrence, as we did talk about yesterday, is happening
yeah,
yet again. And this is just about
mhm,
48 hours, and it's another building under construction, as you've made us to understand. And
yeah.
we've seen, what kind of dangers that portends for it to be in a residential area or any other area for that matter. So, what measures are being taken to curb further collapses on the long run?
Basically, to even understand this situation, is that it is raining in Kenya, specifically in Nairobi. Nairobi borders Kiambu, and it has been raining. And this is a season where some of those structures that were not fit for such a season now, the rubber meets the road, and some of them unfortunately do come down. But basically, yesterday, the National Construction Authority, that is in charge of making sure that these buildings are up to standard according to the national regulations, did issue a statement and said that anyone who or any developer who will be culpable of, well, going on with an illegal or defying the suspension of orders. For example, the rescue mission that was happening at Kasarani after the building, another 6-story building also came down. There were suspension orders that were given, but the developers did not hinder to these orders. And basically, the National Construction Authority pronounced itself again toughly and say that, well, you might serve 3 years imprisonment or 3-year sentence if you're found to have irregular constructions or have defied the suspension orders, or you might also be fined up to 1 million shillings, Kenyan shillings in specific, or roughly around 3.6 million Nigerian naira. Basically, that is from the National Construction Authority. But for constructions to happen in Kenya, there are 2 angles. There's the national government, which now comes in as the National Construction Authority. And then there's now also the county government, which offers these permits to build in that county. Now, yesterday we saw the Nairobi governor announce that they're going to restructure and rebuild the committee that is responsible for issuing these permits. But also in Kiambu today, the governor said that it is going to take also some civil action, that if a civilian or maybe a resident can see a building that is visibly not shaky and not up to standard, they can report. Also, they're going to, the county governor also said they're going to suspend the board that is in charge of giving these permits and reconstitute it and also vet them afresh.
Let me just ask you one more thing. Taking you up on your last comments there, they're going to disband the board and reconstitute. So, what criteria goes into putting these committees or these organizations together that regulate building collapses? It seems they've been doing well before because, again, we say it's a rare occurrence for buildings to come down. So what kind of criteria do you think or has been reported that will come to bear when they're putting together a new board?
Now, basically, what happens is that the board has first, I would say, technocrats. I'll give that word, and also he has experts that come together, and once they're chosen by maybe the board or the commission responsible for hiring this board from the county level, now they're put together. They are also vetted at the county level, and then afterwards they're now presented in front of the governor, who now, of course, signs them into the board completely, and they start their job. But basically, it has received quite some reaction because the last few months or years, unfortunately, there has not been rain, so some of these structures are not been tested. And right now, when the rains are back, well, it'll be quite interesting to see how the rainy season does take in this one, and also the fact that there are very many buildings that have been given red flags. And we'll wait and see if there might be any other cases, unfortunately, and we hope there are none.
Yes, certainly we do. So do we all hope that there are no more cases like that. Thanks again, Brian, for bringing us up to speed with this development.
You're welcome. Thank you.
To move on to other stories, Ethiopia's Government Communications Service Minister Legesse Tulu says all forces fighting in the Tigray region who are not parts of the federal army will withdraw as soon as the Tigrayan rebels disarm. Amara and Afar regional forces, as well as Eritrean troops, have been fighting alongside the federal forces in the 2-year war against the rebels of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The government and the TPLF signed a peace agreement in November in Pretoria, South Africa, to end the war in the north of the country, while the army and rebel commanders also signed a cessation of hostilities agreement in Nairobi, Kenya, also in November. Meanwhile, an opposition party in Tigray region, Baytona Tigray, has rejected the peace agreement, saying the TPLF does not represent the Tigrayan people. To Health Matters, Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, says that 3 Ebola vaccine candidates scheduled for a clinical trial are expected to travel to Uganda next week. The candidates have been evaluated and agreed upon by the agency's committee of external experts to be included in the planned trial. The WHO chief adds that there have been 6 more confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda since last week, bringing the total to 141. Uganda declared an outbreak of Ebola in September this year and said infections were being caused by the Sudan strain.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that a WHO committee of external experts has evaluated 3 candidate vaccines and agreed that all 3 should be included in the planned trial in Uganda. WHO and Uganda's Minister of Health have considered and accepted the committee's recommendation. We expect that first dose of vaccine to be shipped to Uganda next week. Since we briefed you last week, there have been 6 more confirmed cases and 1 probable case of Ebola in Uganda, bringing the total to 141 confirmed and 22 probable cases. There have also been 2 more confirmed Ebola deaths and 1 probable death, for a total of 55 confirmed and 22 probable deaths. 73 patients have now recovered.
We hope, I dearly hope, that this epidemic goes away, and this epidemic is controllable without vaccines. It's clear that we can get to containment without vaccines, but it's also clear from the Congo experience that you can get to control much quicker using effective vaccines, and they're the answers we need to get. We need to ensure that these vaccines are efficacious and do what that they're supposed to do.
At the end of his first official visit to Sudan, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, held a press conference in Khartoum where he spoke to journalists about the political negotiations there. He, however, urged all those who are involved in this political process to set aside entrenched positions, power games, and personal interests and focus on the common interest of the people. The UN High Commissioner adds that bold steps need to be taken to make sure that human rights for all people of Sudan is the driving force behind this political process, as the future of the country depends on it.
We are aware of the political negotiations that continue towards a framework for a new transition, and I urge all those who are involved in this political process to set aside entrenched positions, power games, and any of their personal interests, and to focus on the common interests of the people of Sudan. We need bold steps towards finding consensus, and we need to make sure that the human rights for all people of Sudan are the driving force behind this political process. The future of the country depends on it. We have, let's not forget, the Juba Peace Agreement. It was an important step forward in the country's trajectory towards peace. It provides important commitments on issues like power sharing, like gender equality, like resource sharing, like accountability, transitional justice, as well as the important issue of return of refugees and internally displaced people. This agreement needs to be implemented as a matter of urgency. Sudan is a country that is rich in natural resources. It has arable land. It has a young population. There is incredible wealth in this country. And this wealth is for the people of Sudan, both for the current and for future generations. All of them need to benefit from it, not just the few. There is a need for good governance, and the management of that is obviously a top priority.
Welcome back to the program. Over in Burundi, United Nations Deputy High Commissioner for Refugees, Kelly Clements, is appealing for increased international support to areas and communities where Burundian refugees are opting to return home. This is coming during her first visit to the country. More than 200,000 Burundian refugees have returned from neighboring countries since 2017, and Burundi also has generously hosted 80,000 Congolese refugees for decades.
I'm in the Gitari Transit Center here in southern Burundi, about 10 kilometers from the Tanzanian border. And here behind me, there are about 400 Burundian refugees that have chosen to come back here to Burundi after spending many years in Tanzania. They are really looking forward to going back to their homes. They're receiving some non-food items, some cash, some ways to start their new lives anew. We thank the local authorities for the support that they've provided to make their return possible. The conditions in their areas of origin, their original homes, they don't know yet what they're going to find. But we're here, UNHCR, with a number of partners. We have development and investment that are coming to this area, hopefully to make that return sustainable, for kids to go back to school, for people to find jobs, and for lives to start anew. And we thank you for your support, and we need much more of it.
In the meantime, Serbia is introducing visas for Tunisian and Burundian citizens, responding to EU criticism that the country is a backdoor into the bloc for migrants. In October, the EU Commission said it will consider suspending Serbia's own visa waiver rights to the bloc if it failed to curtail migrants using it as a gateway to the European Union. President Alexander Vučić held talks with Austrian and Hungarian leaders on Wednesday when he agreed to deploy more police resources along Serbia's southern border, a major route for undocumented migrants. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration in Ghana has put out a statement disowning an advisory published on November the 16th about security threats in Abuja as unauthorized. The statement reads, in part, the ministry is not aware of any threat targeted at Ghanaians who continue to live in harmony with their Nigerian brothers and sisters. It adds that it regrets any inconvenience to the traveling public. The statement bears the seal and stamp of the Ghanaian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Well, as part of efforts to curb the menace of the almajiri syndrome in Kaduna State in northern Nigeria, the state government, in collaboration with the United Nations Children Education Fund, has rehabilitated over 2,000 almajiri under the Children in the Street Situation Program. They also received 5,000 each to enable them to reintegrate into their communities. Speaking at the ceremony, the Deputy Governor, represented by her Chief of Staff, James Kanyip, says the policy of free education for the first 12 years is aimed at expanding access to education by removing obstacles like school fees and food.
The almajiri phenomena is an Islamic system of education where parents send their children, mostly boys, aged between 4 and 12, to distant places to acquire Quranic education. Though parents believe they're fulfilling their obligation to provide a religious and moral education to their children, almajiri children are often seen in major cities in northern Nigeria and beyond, wandering around and begging for alms. This fuels concerns of the unintended consequences and negative effects of the almajiri non-formal education system to the society. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, state governments in the northern part of the country banned the almajiri system as a measure to limit the spread of the coronavirus, returning many children within the system to their families and communities of origin. To ensure these children have access to education, the Kaduna state government, in collaboration with UNICEF, rehabilitated 2,674 almajiri under the Children in Street Situation program.
The importance of available and affordable qualitative basic education/literacy and healthcare alongside absence of poverty in achieving human capital development.
According to the representative of the Kaduna State Deputy Governor and the representative of UNICEF, the innovative intervention covers financial inclusion through promoting social inclusion, through birth and digital identity registration, banking the beneficiaries, and expanding literacy through enrollment and provision of relevant material and school uniforms.
Kaduna State Government's inclusive approach treats all children resident in the state as equal citizens, educated to the same curriculum in schools and regulated by the same government agency, the Quality Assurance Authority. This allows suitably licensed schools to teach children their faith, in addition to the secular curriculum in integrated schools.
The purpose is to support these almajiri through a cash transfer to enable them reintegrate into their communities. However, this cash transfer is conditional and has enabled collaboration with relevant stakeholders in the child protection services subsector.
We look forward to our continued partnership with you to ensure that all children in Kaduna State are given better lives. No child should be seen roaming around the street. All children should be in school or walking towards trade.
I'm very happy with this initiative, and we are ready to continue to support and partner with Human Services, Ministry of Education, and all other government agencies that are working towards this mandate. This is very critical. It's part of our responsibility to do this.
Much as it might be difficult to know the exact number of almajiri children in Nigeria, the Kaduna State government is pursuing a no child is left behind policy with a declaration of a 12-year free and compulsory education for all children resident in the state.
Elsewhere, Egypt's agricultural production is largely limited to the wider Nile Valley, where water can be scarce and authorities struggle to stop people building on arable land. Now the Nile Delta farmland is salting up as temperatures and seas rise, making it difficult to maintain crop yields.
Imad Ramadan has started planting rice on his 12-acre plot on the edge of the Egyptian city of Damietta, giving up on tomatoes that would no longer grow well in the increasingly saline soil near the Mediterranean coast. Rice sells for less, but the irrigation used to cultivate it helps cleanse the earth of salt, allowing it to grow. Ramadan is one of tens of thousands of farmers racing to adapt to encroaching salinity in the Nile Delta, a densely populated and fertile area north of Cairo, which accounts for more than a third of Egypt's agricultural land.
The salinity increased over the past 2 years. Every year it increases. We decided to plant rice this year because I'm fed up with the salinity and the use of salinity correctors, so I decided to grow rice.
Rising salinity in the Delta has multiple causes, experts and farmers say, including over-extraction of groundwater and excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides. But they say it has been made worse by raised sea levels and temperatures in Egypt, the phenomenon of climate change and the subject of the global COP27 talks in Egypt. Farmers in the east of the Delta, near the governorate of Sharkia, used raised beds which helped save fertilizers and water, doubling productivity for their crops. But others struggle to treat and rinse the soil as they experiment with new crops or rotations. About a decade ago, farmers used to grow tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and pineapples, but now more resilient cotton, beetroot, and rice are planted in rotation. Irregular rainfall and lack of fresh water for irrigation have made farming harder.
With time, with the sea level rise is higher, that line of salinity will go down in the depth, will go deeper.
For the farmers of the Delta, options for adaptation range from creating raised beds or linear mounds of earth to improving irrigation efficiency and drainage and using new seed strains. The summit in Sharm el-Sheikh includes plans to help 4 billion people living in vulnerable areas withstand the impacts of global warming, along with setting tougher goals on planetary warming emissions.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.